Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Monday morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
How are you?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Hope you enjoyed your Father's Day.
It went quick.
It went really quick.
These weekends are just too quick.
That's what I'm saying. There's not enough time. But let them know what they're in for.
Oh, we've got all sorts of miscellaneous type Monday stuff. We've got the NBA Finals Game 5 tonight, so we'll talk about that. Plus the big trade that everyone's talking about. Some we'll talk what you missed in the Stanley Cup over the weekend. Game 5 is tomorrow. Some baseball news. Yes, baseball news. Ohtani will hit the mound tonight, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus another trade. And some news out of the WNBA and much, much more. How was your weekend?
It was okay. I didn't really do much. I stayed home, to be honest with you. Didn't really celebrate anything besides Father's Day, obviously. Just went to my dad's on Saturday, and, that's about it. I took the weekend to get ahead of the game for the show and obviously sleep because I was very much behind on sleep.
That's pretty much what I did.
Exactly.
Even though I drove the family out to the beach Friday night, and then we did a quick turnaround late Saturday night, and Sunday was laundry and prep. So that was pretty much
real exciting
weekend.
Weekends on our end. I apologize to Cactus Tate as well. I know we said we were going to be at her show. I really wanted to go, but I crashed really early on Friday, and Saturday was completely booked up for me. So,
and we'll get a recap from our boys from the 559 fights a bit later this week. I know Sal won, but I didn't catch the full results from the card, so we'll talk to them a bit later this week. But NBA Finals,
Game 5 tonight. We're going back to Oklahoma City, and at this point, it is tied 2-2. The Thunder on Friday pulled off what we've seen the Pacers do all playoffs, which was down double digits coming into the third quarter. And their start absolutely took over. SGA scoring 15 of the last 16 points for the team. And it just was masterful in dang near every way for the MVP. I felt bad for the Pacers in a way because now they took it from the opposite end and they realized how demoralizing some of those defeats must have been for teams like the Cavaliers and for the Knicks and very, very other situations because you're at home, that you had the crowd behind you. Your coach was making the necessary moves. You just weren't making the shots. And honestly, when you're going up against a team as well where their top 3 players didn't miss from the free throw line at all, 27 for 27, mind you, 10 of them coming from SGA. I believe Jalen had 11 and Chet had 6. I mean, that's hard to beat in itself. 27 free throws from the star players of the Thunder. And an absolute just masterful turnaround at the back end of this game to beat the spread at the same time, right at the edge of it.
I feel bad about Bolt because he posted a video over the weekend that it was right before, it was like 2 minutes before tip off. And he said the line had moved to 6 or 6.5. And he's like, I'm taking the points. I'm taking it. And they lost by 7.
And honestly, 111-104 was your final. It doesn't seem like it was that big of a loss for the Pacers. And honestly, momentum-wise, I think this was a solid game for the Pacers because you came out great. They scored 20 points, I think, in the first 4 minutes, and that was the most that anybody had scored on the Thunder's defense in a long time. So they looked great. Halliburton came out and controlled the game. I think he ended with 18 points or something around that number. Pascal was the only one in the 20s. You still had 5 or 6 guys in double figures, 1 on the bench. So they got the contributors. It's just you couldn't put it together at the end of the game. And, I was listening to a lot of clips over the weekend and stuff, and Magic Johnson's the one that really spoke out to me when they were talking about Tyrese Halliburton because he kind of agreed but disagreed with what everybody else is saying. He does agree.
The superstar thing?
Well, no, more about like what Tyrese needs to do aggression-wise to take over these games. He agrees that Tyrese needs to be the one that facilitates, but also is aggressive on offense, and that's weird to ask for. But at the same time, when you think about who the advice is coming from, it makes a lot of sense because Magic was able to not only facilitate an offense, but make his offense look better by doing so. So I think that in this game, now mind you, this was before game 4 or before this game. It was before game 4 when Magic was saying this. So he was saying this in coming into game 4. I don't know if what we got from Tyrese Halliburton was exactly what we were expecting from Tyrese. I think we need more from him. And honestly, I'm just going to stick to what I said when they played the Knicks. If the Pacers can get over 120 points, 130, like they usually do, which is a weird thing to say, they could win the best of 3 series that we're going to have to see here in the next 3 games.
I mean, we're getting what we wanted. I mean, we've got a great series. They're splitting them both at home. And I mean, you could text in, let us know what you think about game 5. Text in anytime, 661-842-2000.
Here's the weird thing about that, though. We are getting what we asked for. This is great basketball, and everybody who's been watching has been saying so. Guess what the viewership numbers say, Sparky?
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's bad?
Mm-hmm. They're down 20%. This is the worst viewership numbers they've had since the bubble. It does not make sense. I get this is 2 small market teams. I understand that. But for anybody to call yourself a true basketball fan and then not watch this finals, you're a liar.
Hey, you're missing
You're
something.
a liar. You are not a basketball fan. If you're a Knicks fan right now, sitting at home sulking because your team lost, but you say, I'm a true basketball. No, you're not. You're a liar. You're a Knicks fan.
Well, I'm glad you said that because speaking of a Knicks fan that wasn't even watching the game and he was at the game with Stephen A. sitting there playing solitaire on his phone.
Kevin Durant came out and was roasting him on socials too because of this. I
know there was a bunch of players saying, dude, we can't take you serious.
Look, okay, here's the thing though. I'm going to come to the defense of Stephen A.
What?
Look, okay, hear me out. Because he was, if you're watching that video, true, he's got solitaire on his phone, but he was actually watching the game. And I actually catch myself doing this as well. It's the generation we're in. Nobody can really focus on one thing at one time. Now, my argument against myself is that obviously time, and my phone is usually in my pocket. I'm never on my phone when I'm at a sporting event. But I'm also not somebody like Stephen A. Smith who's always at these events. Like, this is a norm to him. So this is essentially him watching it at his house, much like we are. And most of you who watch these games on television as well, you cannot sit here and tell me that you're glued to that TV the whole dang time. Most of you are actually looking at your phones while hearing the TV in the background. So in my defense, or in my defense of Stephen A., is it really any different from what anybody else is doing?
Just sit on your phone.
Yeah. Now the difference obviously being Stephen A., you should be watching the game because you're a commentator and you're an analyst and you should know exactly what happened in front of you. But also you're going to have the stat sheets and everything from your producers and everybody's going to tell you all the stuff anyway. So why?
I'm just going to say you're talking to 2 radio producers.
I know.
And
most of the work does not come from the talking heads. I'm going to tell you that right now.
But I was doing the same thing. I was I was texting with our buddy Flail during the game, and of course I'm getting all the feud from the officiating, where he was just bashing Scott Foster and saying, "Oh, this game is crap. They just won 7 games." Blah, 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 blah. I mean, if you're telling me viewership is down 20%, I think they would just probably want to get out of this.
Well, okay, yes, but okay, the Scott Foster thing is kind of funny. So those who don't know what we're talking about, the NBA has really one referee now that's famous, quote unquote, and that's Scott Foster. Scott Foster, for those of you who are baseball fans, is essentially the Angel Hernandez of the basketball world right now. And not necessarily that he misses calls, but that he calls way too much. People don't like how he calls the game because it slows it down. He always gives calls to the superstars, and it much like the game we just saw, as I just told you, 27 for 27. And that's not counting Alex Caruso's, who also, I believe, went, 5 for 7? So if you want to add on to that, but it's just, I don't think that him refereeing this game had that much to do with them winning.
Now, even the Pacers coach came out and defended him.
Exactly.
I was like, okay.
Carlisle was even saying, this is ridiculous. The guy referees the way he thinks he needs to referee the game.
When it comes to officiating, I will say, if you're going to do it the whole way.
Yeah.
Like, go all in.
Yeah, and he's consistent in that way, at least. Like,
at least they know what they're getting when they got him. So.
Exactly. Like, it may be a headache for you, and I understand that, because, I mean, if you're guys like Naismith who got 4 or 5 fouls very quickly and then fouled out before the end of the game, totally understand your frustration. But
while you brought his name up, that little bum rush, like, shoulder hit, is that a flagrant? I mean, I thought the game before that was a little more rough.
Yeah, I mean, again,
I think the other one, he actually wound up and hit him.
I think it's flagrant because you can clearly see the intent of what he was trying to do.
Bum rushing him?
Yeah, he was not that was not like a normal sportsman-like check of a man into into the stands or something like that. And just so you know, I'm here. And that, I think, is what made it. I think that the Obi Toppin one was worse.
Oh, yeah.
I think Obi's on Alex and Alex's on Obi were way worse.
They really hate that guy.
But yeah, no, I that was questionable. I understand, but I kind of see why they made it a flagrant foul, just because of the intent behind what was going on, and obviously where we were in the game. You can't allow that kind of chippiness, because if you do, then it's going to become worse. Because if you allow that, someone on the other team's going to do something way worse, and we're going to have an entire domino effect. So I kind of get why they had to snuff it out at that point. But again, fans aren't going to be happy about it. I know. I mean, our guy Chris Flail said it before. The fact that you have to even consider it should make it a flagrant foul, but it just, in my personal opinion, I kind of get it. I understand why that should have been. But
so who are you taking tonight?
You know what? We've said this on Friday. This series is going to go to the first team to win 2 in a row. I really, really, really have a feeling that the Thunder are going to win this game.
Me too.
But I'm going to ride with the Pacers.
Whew.
Because the Pacers have shown me every single time, much like the Thunder show me, when they lose, the team that comes back the next game is not the same team. So in my personal opinion, this is going to go 7, and whoever's willpower is stronger at the end of this series is going to win the whole thing. But I'll go with the Pacers tonight, since you'll take the Thunder.
I'm going Thunder tonight, and I think if they do, I think it's over.
How do you feel about the line, though? The line is 9.5 towards the Thunder right now, which is what we got in game 1. And remember, every time that the Pacers have gone down 9.5 like this, much like we said, game 1 and against Cleveland, they win.
I'm not touching it.
No,
I mean, that's a lot of points. If the Pacers was to win game 4, I would have jumped on it, because I think OKC would have came back with that chip like they did in the game before. But I think, I mean, it's going back and forth each game this series. I think if OKC is going to take this, they got to win tonight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think,
and just like you said, they got to win. Whoever wins back to back.
First team to win 2 games in a row is going to win this series, because neither of these teams want to be that team to lose 2 in a row.
I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, I'm going to still go with OKC in 6. I think if they could take the game tonight, it's over. But I've counted out the Pacers several times this playoff, and
well, you and everybody else, you're not alone though. Like, that's what I'm saying. This Pacers team should not be putting up the numbers they are, but they just do. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Like I said, they've showed me multiple times that I have to back them. So I'm going to go with the Pacers, just for anything, just for the two of us to be on opposite sides of this one more time and see how we get. But much like the Stanley Cup final, it's been back and forth. And I mean, that's going to game 6 tomorrow. And that's well, obviously winner go home situation for the Oilers again.
That one I've got a
But
whole different thought on that one.
we'll get into that in the second half. But I mean, there were trades and whatnot and thought about trades in the NBA. So we'll take a quick break and pay some bills and get into those. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. Sorry, I can't stop on money. This is the early bird special. Hope you guys are enjoying your Monday.
Our first text says, "Go Pacers!"
Go Pacers. Again, I would love to see the Pacers win this whole thing, but the Thunder have just showed me at their peak, they can't be beaten. And I don't know if we're gonna not see that in the next couple games. It just that I don't know. This thing is so flip floppy. It's really fun to watch though, and honestly, I'm just happy each team has answered every single time because if they didn't, we wouldn't have good basketball right now, and this series would probably be over already. If I'm being honest,
I'm still shocked. The ratings.
again, down 20%. That is so
I,
wild.
I mean, this is a hell of a series. I don't know
Again,
what else basketball fans would want.
no, again, we have to take into account as well if these are base viewership ratings. I don't know if this qualifies like all of the ratings, like streaming wise and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people are frustrated in terms of like you have to own every streaming service to watch all of these games if you ever wanted to. I just I
Trust me, as a
don't
Bulls fan, I've done it,
understand. I
and
know.
it's not worth it.
No, but I mean, it's cable. You might as well just kept cable. But again, this is what we asked for. Uh, but I don't understand it in terms of if you're a basketball fan and you're not watching this, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, what are you watching?
My team got blown out by the Pacers. If anybody should be mad, it should be me, and I'm rooting for them to win the whole dang thing.
Yeah, no.
Like, come on, man. Like it's good basketball. I don't understand how the viewership ratings could be that low. But the big story the day in basketball was what broke yesterday as the Grizzlies and the Magic figured out a trade to get Desmond Bane over to Orlando in turn for Kadavius Caldwell Pope, Cole Anthony, 4 first-round draft picks unprotected, and 1 first-round swap, including the number 16 overall pick in this year's draft. I love this trade. Or I love this trade for the Magic. I love this trade for the Grizzlies. I know the Magic had to give up a ton, but hear me out on this. Not only does Desmond Bane come in and fit this team perfectly mentality wise because he was the defensive stud for the Grizzlies for his duration there. He also is the star scorer they desperately need. Oh my God. This team has been on the brink of being solid to great for the last couple of years with the return of Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner next year too. I think this Magic team is going to be scary. I don't know who starts at point, if they're going to put Desmond at point, if they want to keep Suggs there. I don't know exactly which direction they're going to go, but this trade's going to be great for them. And if you're a Memphis Grizzlies fan, this is a great trade for you as well because you get a lot of building blocks for the future, as well as a solid point guard in Cole Anthony who can back up Ja Morant, because I think you need that in turn, and you get a defensive fill-in and Davius Caldwell Pope, who arguably is just as good on defense, if not a little bit better than Bane, and can shoot threes. So you really didn't miss out on much. You actually filled the void that Desmond the position he played for you with 2 players plus a ton of first-round draft picks. So I like this trade.
That's a lot of
I know.
draft picks.
I know, but again, I think at least in the first 2 years, you're going to see why they dropped that many draft picks.
Well, before I throw in what I heard this morning, let's go to Bobby Marks and what he thought about the trade.
Well, we'll know soon because, Jaron Jackson Jr. is renegotiation eligible this offseason here. And if they give him a nice size contract and use cap space to do it, then that's certainly an indication that they're going to continue building around him and Ja Morant. Ja's going to be interesting too because he's extension eligible. Zach Edey's out for a little bit of time, and they pick up the 16th pick in the draft here. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's some ways where you could say, trading probably your second best player off that roster is a sign that you're going to take a step back. I don't know how you can take a step back in the Western Conference. It's unless you're really going to take a step back, and that's trading away, Ja and Yarin and picking up all these draft picks and then trying to figure out through the draft here and everything.
Well, that's what I was going to bounce off you because now that Jackson is probably going to get his deal, the rumor mill, of course, it's spinning, and it's if they're saying if Jackson gets his deal, and then Ja's going to want his max deal.
Naturally.
And with
Buy
that,
a lot of guns with that money.
do you think they max it out? Because now the rumors are talking about that Ja's not happy, and
money. Well, as we saw with other athletes like Myles Garrett, money can make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that they're both going to get their money. And honestly, I think this trade kind of shows that they're trying to move pieces to make that happen, while also, like I just said earlier, building depth in the team. Because let's not forget now, this is a copycat league, and everybody's looking at the Thunder and the Pacers right now saying, how the heck did these two make it here? And it's because of how deep they are team-wise. The Memphis Grizzlies are now building a team that they can sit there and say, okay, we have a secondary unit that can come in and actually contribute. So I don't think this is a bad move at all. If I'm the Grizzlies, I do everything I can to figure this thing out with Ja Morant and get him away from whoever is causing the,
put him in a bubble.
I don't know what you got to do. Don't force the kid to do that, because obviously you're just going to force him away if you do that. But talk to him and get him away from the bad influences in his life, because that's really what all of this is stemming from. But if you can make it work with him and Jaren Jackson Jr., again, I think this is going to be a good trade across the board. Plus, you have draft capital.
Ton of it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be solid. And if you're the Magic, you really don't care, because you see yourself as a playoff team for the foreseeable future. You have built at least a core that could get you there. All you were missing was some star power. And I think with Desmond Bane, I think you got it, dude. I really do. Because I think this guy was somebody who was overshadowed by Ja Morant the vast majority of his time with Memphis, and could have easily been just as big of a player as Ja. I really believe that. And honestly, I think you're going to see that in the next couple of years.
I'm just nervous they're not going to pay Ja and he goes elsewhere.
I mean,
because he's going to come out, I want my max deal 2 year.
See, and I think that that's going to be contingent on his outside situation.
Yeah.
Like his attitude and how he cleans himself up, because no one's going to give you a max deal if you're going around and, flaring guns everywhere, and you're going to get suspended for 50%, if not 75% of the season.
Unless you want to go to Sacramento.
I mean, yeah, that's probably, again.
But I mean, this is going to be the first, we've talked about this for weeks, that, this offseason is going to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm going to go back to Bobby Marks, and other than Durant, what other players could be moving?
You hear a little scuttlebutt about LaMelo Ball in Charlotte. When you talk to teams, I'll be intrigued as far as what happens with certainly Trae Young in Atlanta, just because Trae's extension eligible and could be a free agent here. I think LaMelo is interesting because the durability issues has been a major concern. I'm interested what Charlotte does in the draft, where they're picking they're at 4. If they go guard, I think if they go point guard, I'm big on Jeremiah Fears, the guard from Oklahoma. If they go guard, what does that mean for LaMelo? He's still owed a lot of money, but the ability to stay healthy is a major concern for me. And I think when you look at the landscape of the league, it's a point guard heavy league where a lot of teams have really good guards already here. There's a few teams that have openings, but that would be the one guy that I would kind of circle as far as, if there's maybe some movement.
I have heard Trae Young's name in the trade rumors last couple months, I should say. LaMelo is new to me, though. I have not heard that, although I would understand his lack of ability to be on the court due to his, injuries and stuff being a factor. That's an interesting thought to me now that he brings that up, because if LaMelo Ball is on the move, I mean, again, I'm not huge on the Ball family in general, but LaMelo has definitely been the best of the group in terms of scoring and obviously having the potential to be a great basketball player. So if there's a team out there, maybe like the Atlanta Hawks, who is looking for something a little bit different, might not be the worst idea for them to just make a trade straight up for LaMelo and Trae Young and flip-flop them. I mean, I could see it. But again, that's not usually how these trades work, unfortunately, in the NBA.
But, the big names are the Durant and Giannis.
Yes.
And we'll get into that after the break, as well as the Knicks.
I don't think we're ever going to stop talking about the Knicks or the Dallas Mavericks at this point. We're going to be talking about them for the next couple weeks because they still haven't figured it out.
But plus, we had some drama in the Big Three. We'll talk about that and much more right here on the Early Bird Special. ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back.
It's like the Bulls are going to extend.
Billy Donovan. How you feel?
Yippee!
What's the why no Billy Donovan? No,
I think you can put whatever coach you want in there until they actually get aggressive
they put something into
and
the
put some
roster.
players in here.
You know what? That's the weird thing is I haven't heard the Bulls on
Nope.
anybody's radar.
Not
for any of
surprised.
these teams. It's kind of surprising to me because I'm just like, I don't know. During the break, I got really interested in this LaMelo thing because I just had never not heard that. And if honestly, the Charlotte Hornets are really thinking about shopping Melo, it's an interesting thought. And of course, the first thing that pops up is, I guess, this morning, as people are reporting, uh, LeVar's already in the news. LeVar is begging the Clippers to trade for LaMelo and Lonzo and do this brothers thing. This man just like, brother, just stop.
Get off the
Like,
phone.
look, dude, but you know what? I can't say that. I can't say that because last time this man did this, last time this man was in the news, he absolutely spoke it into existence with the Lakers at least, and convinced them that they needed Lonzo Ball and they absolutely had to have him no matter what, no matter how high up on the draft board you needed to take him, even though he really did not warrant taking him in the top 5. But here we are. And God, this family, every single time I knew anytime that one of these boys is up for a trade, the dad's got to be in the news. So I just was very curious. And of course, first thing I see, LeVar Ball begging the Clippers to trade for both the sons.
That's not going to happen.
No, it's not, but it is what it is. He can continue to dream. I wish him nothing but good things and good health. But
well, former NBA stars Dwight Howard and Lance Stevenson were both ejected from their Big 3 debuts.
I thought this was first and foremost. I thought, not to cut you off. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish. But
no, because
I thought this was in Japan at first, or China, or wherever.
I didn't know at first until I got into the store. I didn't know it was Big 3 either.
I can't remember who asked me who it was when I saw the video. I was like, "Where was this?" And I was like, "I'm pretty sure." I thought it was in China, but yeah, no, it happened at the Big 3. And you know what's funny? I saw Cam Newton talk about this, and I agree with him. Kind of, this is what we want. This is what we want. If you can ball, show everybody. Like, I'm not gonna say what he said because I mean he said it a lot better than I am, but. It just, and honestly, Dwight didn't even want the smoke. He didn't want to fight. Lance is the one who locked up with them first, and Dwight just said, "Okay, we're gonna rough and tumble. We're gonna rough and tumble."
And that's Lance. I mean, his whole NBA career, he was always chippy with guys, and
honestly, I think this is exactly what we thought was going to happen.
Yep.
When we heard that Lance was signing with the Big 3, we knew. And like, I mean, I can't remember if we talked about it when it actually happened on or off this podcast or not, because it would have been back before the show started. But it just, this was great. This was absolutely fantastic.
Well, he was getting into it, or Stevenson was getting into it with Jordan Crawford earlier in the game, because that's the first clip I saw. And I was like, Dwight Howard plays Big 3?
Well, again, I think, Dwight Howard plays Big 3. I think Big 3 is pulling a lot of these big athletes, and it's a good thing because, honestly, it's going to make the league a lot better. And when you see situations like Joe Johnson, who came in and absolutely tore it up for him, I like watching the players of old come back and show that they can still play. It's a lot of fun. I like seeing my teams from back when I was, junior high actually play something. Plus, Big 3 has been entertaining. It actually has, but I haven't gotten to watch this weekend, obviously. Otherwise, I would have known this actually happened at the Big 3 tournament.
And it was the season opener, and I guess they've expanded to 8 teams now. $1 million payout for the championship team. Do you know how long the season is?
I do not. I think it's a couple months.
Okay.
I want to say it's
I'm gonna have to catch some of this because they've got some former chippy NBA players that, as soon as I heard Stevenson, I was like, what do you do now? Like, but I posted the video over the weekend.
It's 11 weeks long.
Okay.
So that's actually a pretty considerable amount of time when you really think about it. That's over 2 months. And I agree with you. Like, when I saw the video, but again, I thought this was overseas. So I'm just sitting here thinking, like, why are y'all doing this? Making us look like we're hooligans. But no, if it's at the Big 3, I kind of understand, because they also kind of preach doing more of a street ball feel at the Big 3. And honestly, if we're going to be rough and tumbling, that's exactly what I expect to see. So
do it.
That was awesome.
And it was a busy WNBA weekend as well. Did you see that video of Caitlin, or did you watch any of that?
Yeah, the
9
from
points.
Logo 3, and she, again, as advertised, that when she's not playing, the WNBA is not making as much money. I think they were down 45% or something, maybe even more than that in viewership when she's not playing. And the Fever took out the undefeated Liberty in that game, taking down Breanna Stewart. It was really fun to see the two of them go at it. But again, the future of this league is in Caitlin Clark's hands. So I think that it's just nice to see that she is making these big shots again and actually coming out and playing like she usually does. But the other one that we have to talk about as well is
so there's no undefeated teams now.
No, nobody's undefeated. And honestly,
Okay.
I didn't think that anybody was going to go undefeated.
Well, I know
rare.
was it the Lynx and Liberty were undefeated early last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I, just like most people, I didn't watch it when Caitlin was out. She was out 4 or 5 games. But yeah, I watched. Somebody had sent us the video, which you can find us on Instagram and all the social medias. That's the early bird special. But they sent me the video where she scored like 9-10 points in 27 seconds or something like that. But yeah, to bring up the other headline over the weekend with Angel Reese. Second youngest
to ever get a triple double.
To who?
I honestly,
Caitlin.
Is it really?
Yep. That's what I was like. Who would be the first
Oh
one?
my goodness, that's awesome. No, everybody's praising her for this, but again, how did the guy put it this weekend? I saw a video that said something, and it was not against Angel Reese, but the adage still kind of works here. I don't celebrate a fish for swimming. You know what I mean? Like, I expect
People
this
hate her,
from
man.
you. I'm sorry. Like, your style of play, one triple double ain't gonna change all this. Okay, like, I'm sorry, that doesn't prove anything to me. It really does not. I expect you to come out and be a triple double monster with what you talk about yourself. To be honest with you, if you want to be seen in the same light as a Caitlin Clark or anything like that, you have to play that way. I'm sorry. And you coming out and having a triple double for the first time, that's great. Good for you. Absolutely. Fantastic for the Chicago Sky. Yeah. What took so long? And how many of those were me bounce? For those of you who don't know what that is, she has a very bad history of tossing up a layup, missing, and grabbing her own rebound.
Which I got to throw out a shout out to your buddy, because I'm seeing his serial video everywhere.
I cannot believe my best friend went viral.
I saw the Bleacher Report posted over the weekend.
Bleacher Report posted it too?
Oh my God. Credit at the bottom.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That's so cool. Yeah.
At the time, it had like 30,000 views at the time.
For those of you who don't know, if you've seen on TikTok that viral video of the Reese's Puffs box missing the target basket a few times, that's actually my best friend Austin, who very, very quickly texted me saying, I'm going viral. And I said, what do you mean? Like, that's not usually a good thing. But no, in this case, it was a good thing. I didn't realize Bleacher Report reposted it too.
It was right after you told me it was your buddy. I was like, oh, damn.
That's funny.
And I watched it because at the bottom or in the credits, it
I was curious because we had Cactus in here on Friday, and I asked her the same thing because I brought it up just in conversation. And I don't know how much the monetization stuff actually happens right now, so I don't know how much he would make off of it. I was just laughing with her. I was like, he'll probably make like a couple $100 out of it. And she was like, oh no, like he'll make a good amount after it, depending on how much people watch it and how much it's shared. And I was like, really? Oh, dang. So I need to actually talk him into monetizing his stuff so we could actually make some money off that video. I didn't realize how many was actually on there. I think it's 5.4 million or something like that right now.
When I saw it on Bleacher Report, it was 30,000.
30,000?
But I'm sure
it's way in the millions now.
I'm sure it's way bigger. That was
it's like I got to look back at that.
And I would expect, with her, getting her triple double, that only makes it better for those types of videos.
Well, he made me laugh with it because he was texting me saying that people are attacking him, calling him racist now. And I'm like, really? Like, you're racist for posting the video? God. That's interesting. But again, going back to the whole Angel Reese part of this, your embarrassing play does not warrant praise for a triple double for me. Great, you got a triple double. I'm proud of you. Good for you. But I expect this type of play from you. When you come in with the hype that you came in with, when you're sitting here saying that you should be in the same conversations as a Caitlin Clark, you need to be doing this. So I don't care until she starts doing this on a regular basis. Then I will give you praise for this. But this is like a meh to me. The fact that anybody is talking about this in the news is kind of, I get it. Don't get me wrong. But like you just said, you're second to Caitlin again.
They did it twice.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Like, great. But
I like Angel, but she's got to clean up some.
she's got to clean up her
She's got to
play.
clean up a lot.
It just, when you're, I mean, shoot, when my friend can make a TikTok about you off of a Reese's Puff box, like people are making TikTok and Instagram videos celebrating you missing your first shot of every game. That's embarrassing. Like, clean it up. I'm sorry, clean it up, and then I will give you some credit for this. But that's where I stand on that one.
Well, we'll take our break. We'll wrap up the hour before we get into baseball, golf, Stanley Cup. There's so much going on that we couldn't just keep it into just basketball today. Right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. absolutely just glitching on me right now. I'm not
Well,
sure what's going on.
with the first big NBA trade taking place, now everyone is turning to Durant. I haven't heard much of the Giannis talk, but I think it'll
It'll
happen.
pick up eventually, but I don't know exactly how long it'll take to get there. I don't know. Kevin is probably a more likely situation because Phoenix is done. Phoenix is done with this big three. They want to blow it up and move on. The teams that I keep seeing being thrown in are the Timberwolves. You got the Heat, the Knicks, even though the Knicks have come out and vocally said they are not in the running. They do not want anything to do with that trade right now. Although I have seen in other situations where Kevin Durant has come out and said that that was his number one landing spot.
I
So,
know they tried during the season.
and maybe they gave up on it and they're trying to think that maybe because of this deep run, they don't need somebody like Kevin Durant instead. I don't think really moving Kevin, because the only person I could honestly see being moved for Kevin would be Karl Anthony Towns, unless you want to blow up in the Villanova team and get rid of like all of the pieces like OG and Michael Bridges and all of that.
And that'd
But
be stupid.
I agree with you. I think that you need depth to get to where you want to get to. And I don't think bringing in one guy that's 37 years old is going to make that
That's what I was
happen
gonna
for
say,
you.
and it's not gonna be a long-term deal. So I wouldn't do it. But yeah, I haven't heard the Timberwolves lately. I'm hearing more of Miami, the Spurs, and Houston,
Mhm.
which we got into last week. But I did see that over the weekend that Durant said, that New York was one of, his key spots that he thought he would be going to. Um, Out of those three, I know it might just because of ESPN reporters all stay out in Miami, but I'm hearing a lot more of the Miami push. And we talked about it when they were eliminated and after they had traded Butler, that Miami could be
Mhm.
going all in.
Mhm.
I could see that now.
Well, I think Miami is the most likely spot for him to go to for a couple reasons. One, if you're a team like the Spurs or the Rockets, you're looking for more of a long-term commitment, and that's not what you're getting out of this. I wouldn't blow up a youthful team like the Rockets or the Spurs to get a guy like Kevin Durant for 2 years. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just, if I'm looking for a longevity thing or building a dynasty, I would keep the course of what I've seen in San Antonio and Houston. And honestly, I think Houston's a pretty solid front runner for Giannis as well. So it would make a lot of sense that they maybe want to go that route instead. I think Miami works because one, they desperately need a superstar no matter who it is. And if you can somehow hold on to Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo out of this, it would make a lot of sense to pair the three of them together in one last big three push to kind of take on in a weaker Eastern Conference.
Trade Hero.
I mean,
I would love that so much.
well, that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head, though, is that they're not going to do this for nothing. So you're going to need to trade something to the Suns, which means you may have to give up a Bam Adebayo or a Tyler Hero for that trade to even be considered. You know what I mean? So, and I just, or unless you trade all of your draft capital for the next couple of years, but it'd be kind of interesting to see if they could somehow put a team together in Miami with Kevin Durant and Bam Adebayo still on the roster.
Well, that was one of our texts said, with the trade over the weekend, how many damn draft picks would Durant bring?
Not a lot,
And I'm
actually.
like, well, he's older, so
I don't, yeah, because of his age, I don't think you would get something like you would get for a Desmond Bane because it's not like Desmond's still young, or he's still younger. He still has a couple years left in his prime. Kevin has maybe 3 years left in his career. Like,
if that.
if he plays into his 40s, I'd be surprised, to be honest. Not that he couldn't play that long, but it's more of just, it's rare when you see that with basketball players. So we're looking at a trade where Kevin's going for the remainder of his career.
And he's missed a lot of time over the last few
Mhm.
years. So, I mean, before you start backing up all those trades or all those draft picks, you might want to, backtrack and, make, especially with Miami. I mean, hopefully with my hate of the Miami Heat, I hope they do have to trade big, but
Miami's just that team that, like, you're kind of in limbo. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of draft capital, but at the same time, the players you have on your team aren't really doing it. And you desperately need a superstar since you traded away your star last year in Jimmy Butler. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I know we were talking about it when the Jimmy Butler trade happened, that maybe Kevin Durant goes to a place like Miami or like Chicago. I genuinely believe if we're looking at the 5 teams that have been considered and talked about, my personal 2 would be Miami first, then the Timberwolves second, because movement from those 2 teams, even when Kevin moves on after his career, you would expect them to either just rebuild or restart. If you're a team like that has a young core right now, like the Spurs or the Rockets, or somebody who has an established championship-esque team like the Knicks, I wouldn't blow that up right now just for 1 to 2 years with Kevin Durant. That doesn't make sense to me.
I would think the NBA would want him over in Minnesota.
I
I just think it'd be a better look for the NBA, and it would help out or benefit players like Ant.
Imagine a big 3 of Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, and Julius Randle. That's actually pretty enticing.
And what do you think they would have to give up to get up?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, Bleacher Report had an idea. Let's see. Bleacher Report says they can get a 3-team trade done if they get the Lakers in on this, and they send Luka Garza to the Lakers, Julius Randle, Dillingham, Shannon Jr., Conley, and another couple players go to the Suns, and then the Timberwolves just get a straight up Kevin Durant. It's a lot to ask for, especially giving up Julius Randle, but it's doable. And honestly, I think you're right. I think pairing Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant together is more alluring to the NBA as a whole than him going to Miami. But a big 3 in Miami of him, Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo is just as it's just as interesting to me, at least.
Well, our last 2 texts for basketball, anyways, which you could text in 661-842-2000. This one says, my thoughts on the basketball trade is a load of draft picks.
Oh yeah, it's a ton of draft picks. Don't get me wrong, but again, don't forget the Magic are a playoff team, which means all of these draft picks are low, like in the 20s. So is it really that big of a deal?
And the last one says, go Pacers again.
All
these Pacer fans.
Well,
where the hell did they come from?
That's what I'm wondering too. But at this point, it's just hate against the Thunder, which I also am kind of confused of. I get being, I don't like the sloth, but I don't hate the team. That's kind of weird. Well, we got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, Hour 2. And we still have a ton of stuff that went on over the weekend that we have to get to. Real quick, let's just give you your rundown on your U.S. Open of golf from over the weekend. Neither I nor Sparky were able to catch most of it. JJ Spawn, though, the American, was able to hold on to the lead and win it at 1 under par. Everybody else was over par. This is the first time that I ever remember seeing something of this nature, but Oakmont absolutely destroyed everybody. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the weather was awful. The weather was rainy, from what I understand.
I know there was a long rain delay.
Just poor. It's just so poor. But honestly, at this point, JJ Spawn was able to pull it off. At one point, everybody was over par. He was well over. And sorry.
What the hell was that?
Don't worry about it. Those who understand get it. But JJ Spawn was able to pull it off, the 25th best golfer in the world. And at this point, it just Oakmont took everybody else by surprise. It looked like I genuinely thought everybody was going to end over par. It was going to be the first time, I believe, since pre-COVID 7 years ago. So that would have been 2018 at the U.S. Open, if I'm not mistaken. But that's all we got for you, really, because I didn't get a chance to watch it. I know he did win on 2 birdie putts, one of them being 64 feet, which is pretty dang impressive if you're a golfer. So good for JJ Spawn. Well done, good sir. And hopefully we'll get some more golf in here with Bolt Brady when he gets back during the football season.
I know the tour heads to Connecticut for the Travelers Championship starting Thursday. But the big news, which we could talk the trade, but, you know, all you're hearing today is Ohtani.
Again, well, yeah, because let's start with Shohei, because this is the bigger news, really, in my opinion. Shohei Ohtani's taking the mound for the Dodgers after the news that Roki Sasaki might be out for the remainder of the season with his injury, which is another major shot to the gut if you're a Dodger fan, because that's, I think, their 15th, 16th pitcher that's now out on the IL right now.
8 starters and 6 relievers as of right
14, now. 14. So good God. I don't know what you guys are doing to your pitchers right now, but this is ridiculous. But I mean, my hopes and dreams for Shohei obviously will not be happening now, because you guys are so thin at starting pitcher that you can't possibly put him at closer anymore. But he will be taking the mound today against the San Diego Padres. I'm knocking on wood.
First time in God, 21 months.
Please, God. Do not hurt this man.
No.
Please.
We don't want that.
Like, I'm just as worried as about 75% of Dodger faithful right now, because I don't want to see the modern day Babe Ruth throw out his arm. And I get it. He's a superstar and you have to put him on the mound and you have to, use him as he wants to be used. And obviously it's just part of his game, but this worries me. I'm not going to lie. It really, really does. And honestly, going up against the San Diego Padres first, that's going to be a tall order too, because Tatis and Manny are going to be looking to take him deep every single time. And honestly, they might do it just because this is his first time back in quite some time. First time pitching, I believe, as a starter for the Dodgers.
Yes.
I do not believe he's ever started for the Dodgers. And I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. This is going to be interesting to watch, but I will definitely be glued to my television.
Yeah, we'll definitely be watching, and that's going to hurt the NBA Finals.
I'm going to be look, I have my ways. I could have both games on at the same time. I can do it.
But does it count for ratings?
Probably not.
Probably not. But I mean, the kid has been out for 21 months since he's pitched in a real game. I know he pitched in one of those simulated games Tuesday where he threw 44 pitches, 3 innings with 6 strikeouts. But we'll see.
Oh, this could be...
what I'm seeing is he's only pitching 1 or 2 innings at the most.
Again, this could be the beginning of something incredible, or this could be the start of something incredibly bad. And I really hope it is not the latter. I'm praying that Shohei Ohtani comes out and is the fire, or just the absolute flamethrower that he usually is. But I'm worried. I don't want to see the best hitter in baseball get hurt again. I don't want to see it, even though he plays for the Dodgers. I'll come out and say it. I don't want to see it. So It worries me. But the other thing that happened in baseball that we got to get to before we get to a break, the Red Sox have done it again. They've traded away their best player to the NL West since they decided to trade Rafael Devers to the Giants yesterday for, 2 pitchers and some other stuff, both the pitchers being absolutely mid-tier in my opinion. I get that they were frustrated that Devers did not want to move to first base. I understand the mounting frustration between the team and him kind of just soured the relationship in general, and Rafael did not want to be there anymore. But this is now the 3rd straight player you've lost to the NL West. You traded Mookie Betts to the Dodgers. Now you traded Devers to the Giants, and Xander, moved on to the Padres. What are you doing? I thought you guys were trying to build something here. You lost Casas for the entire year. Bregman is hurt. I don't know exactly. I got to talk to Kyle Kerr because he's the only Red Sox fan I know that analyzes it like I do. And he actually told me last week, I'm not even going to lie to you, Kyle Kerr was the first person I had heard that this was going to be happening very, very soon. And he was right. It happened over the weekend. He told me that, I think, on Thursday or Friday. Go listen to the Greg Kerr show this afternoon. He'll probably talk about it later. But this one shocked me. I don't know. How closely have you been watching this one, Spark?
I usually steer away from any Boston news, but when I saw the trade, I have a lot of friends that are diehard Giant fans, and I got a ton of texts. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? So the more I read into it, I was like, really? Like, that's all you had to give up? First of all, was like,
well, that's how you knew the trade was like, okay, we just need to move on. We need to move on from him. We don't need him here anymore.
I know the Giants have to pick up the rest of that massive contract, but
yeah, and that was the big thing, was he still has, I believe, 6 years, $200+ million left on this contract.
$250 million remaining on his 11-year deal that he signed.
$300 million. Again, that's how you knew that the relationship had soured, though, because they really did have the faith behind him. But that's also why I was confused why you went and signed Alex Bregman over the offseason without consulting him, or at least sitting there saying, okay, would you be okay with moving to DH or to first base? But you still didn't want to move off from Casas because Casas was one of their fan base's most favored players. So there's a lot of balls that were juggled that obviously weren't considered correctly. I think that Devers took this wrong and said, oh, well, you obviously don't believe in me like I thought you did because you're trying to move me out of my position. And that caused an entire seed of distrust between him and the organization. And it just grew and grew and grew from there until it finally just broke. And I think that with this trade, you kind of see that because, again, you traded for 2 pitchers from the Giants who both have a 4.5+ ERAs. One of them immediately got demoted down to AAA.
AAA, yeah, I saw that.
And
the other 2 were prospects.
Yeah, and the other 2 were prospects. And honestly, they're not great prospects from the Giants at all. So all you were really looking for is who wants to take on this contract.
Exactly.
Who is willing to take on this big old contract from us because we don't want to take any of it. And the Giants just said, we're in contention. Let's go. One more big bat wouldn't hurt us, and they got it for nothing.
They're only a couple games behind the Dodgers, but this is Jeff Passan on how this will go with Boston.
In the short term, certainly, Rafael Devers, since Alex Bregman has been hurt, has been the Red Sox best hitter this season. And after he struggled over the first couple weeks of the season, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. So in the near term, this seemingly makes the Boston Red Sox a worse team. And let's not remember all of the trauma that exists still in Red Sox Nation after the trade of Mookie Betts. When you have a player of that caliber, he's the sort you tend to want to keep around for the majority, if not entirety, of his career, particularly when he's a homegrown guy. But at the end of the day, I think the Red Sox have just grown a little bit tired, and Rafael Devers the same.
That's the only thing I can think of. Both sides were just tired of it. They were done with each other, and it was a really bad breakup, and you just got to get them out of the house right now. So you throw all their stuff onto the lawn and hope they take it and move to a hotel. You know what I mean? It's ugly. It didn't help the Red Sox at all. I feel bad for Red Sox country because you literally traded this away for pennies, and Now you just have to hope that your organization turns around and uses that money wisely next year, or maybe this year in a couple trades and tries to put something together. But at this point, I would say your season's a wash because your best player's hurt. I don't know when he's coming back. And your organization, again, for the second time, technically, third time, if you want to count Bogarts, is now letting their best player walk out the door.
And were you, I know you're a Phillies guy. Were you planned it, or were you surprised at all? I know a lot of them weren't, but with the Zach Wheeler announcing that he'll be retiring after next season.
No, again, not necessarily surprised. He is going to be 37. And as we just talked about with a couple other athletes, Kevin Durant, athletes don't normally go into their 40s. It is very, very rare when you get a guy that goes into their 40s. And Wheeler has given his A game throughout his entire career as a pitcher, has done nothing but been a stud for the Phillies and the Mets and wherever he's played. I mean, it's understandable to be that he wants to retire at least semi early in his career. Maybe there's a figure that could turn that around. Doubtful that you could probably get it to happen, but it does not surprise me. No, I knew this was coming eventually. And it honestly, once again, puts a giant, time card on Philadelphia and how quickly or how this thing's going to fade away if you want to win a World Series, because that is your best pitcher. 100%, no questions asked. Has been and will continue to be your best pitcher. Aaron Nola is a solid pitcher who has not really developed into the superstar we thought he was going to be, but in the long scheme of things, you lose Zach Wheeler, that's going to hurt. So you got to figure out either his replacement or you got to win some World Series now and somehow convince him, hey, maybe you can go 38, 39, maybe. And yeah, but at this point right now, surprised? No, not at all. But it's still heartbreaking to see because as a Phillies fan, obviously that means our best arm is most likely going to be leaving us here in the next year. So it is what it is.
Before we get away from baseball, I've got to go through these obviously Dodger fans. But the first one says, I can't wait to see Ohtani pitch tonight. Probably a couple innings. Let's go.
I'm going to assume 3. You at least get 3 out of them, especially if they're good. If they're good innings, I say you let him go as long as you need to. He does not go out longer than 4, though, 4 or 5, just in case that shoulder isn't fully healed yet.
The other one says, my thoughts on the trade in baseball is I think the Red Sox GM must have been drunk because that trade knocks money off, but he has that Yankee killer.
Look, when I heard it was Jordan Wicks, and I cannot remember the other pitcher right now that got sent down. It doesn't matter. We don't need it. It's not a big deal. He's not very good.
Damn.
He's
Kyle
not.
Harrison?
I'm sorry. And look, dude, he's a solid C-tier pitcher. If you need a guy to come in from the bullpen and when your starter sucked
bodies,
you need a body. He's usually the guy you can throw in there, and he's a lefty, so obviously that gives him a little bit of a lure. But he's not anything to write home about. And neither is Jordan Wicks. That's what I saw that, and I said, wait, you literally got nothing. You got nothing out of this outside of just shaving off the contract. So, I mean, if that's what their long game was, good for you, but you just wasted money, in my opinion.
One of them says Giants thought they had the headline, but no, Dodgers had other ideas.
You know what? I was kind of thinking that last night. I was sitting there thinking, oh, wow, we're going to talk about the Giants tomorrow. And then right as I'm about to go to bed or wrap up my notes, we get the Shohei Ohtani news and said, nope. Dodgers have to sit there and one of them. That's awesome.
The other baseball one was agree, and he refused to play in the field, but I've seen the Dodgers keep players just because they did good versus the Giants. Real question for you guys is what's worse? What is the worst trade, that one or Mookie Betts trade for the Red Sox?
No, Devers. Devers is worse. Look, I mean, Mookie's trade to the Dodgers was shocking, but they at least got prospects they thought were going to fill some void there. Devers, you got nothing. You got literally nothing. Unless one of those prospects that they traded for ends up playing out of his mind because he's in Boston now, I don't see any of that working out for them. All this was money movement. And honestly, for it to end like this, I know there's a couple Boston Red Sox fans in town. If you're listening to my voice, text in right now. Let us know how you feel about this. But I agree with our texter a little bit ago. That guy must have been drunk or really, really pissed off. because this just screams to me really bad breakup, because all they were looking to do was to find anybody that was willing to eat the contract.
Yep.
That's all I can see from this trade at all. But that's all I got.
You think the Giants get past the Dodgers now?
I think they have an opportunity here to at least swing into the wild card. I don't know if you get past the Dodgers, though. As much as they've been hurt in the pitching department, the Dodgers still are the Dodgers. And I think it speaks volume that the Dodgers have been this good with all of this turmoil and all of this pitching problems. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't looked great. And there are certain players on the team, Max Muncy, who still can't hit over 250. And
I'll just bring it up because I heard part of Kerr's show late last week, and he was pretty much counting the Dodgers out.
No, I would never count the Dodgers out, but I'd honestly,
he said they'll make the playoffs, but they're not a World Series team this year. And I was like, well, it's still early.
I can agree with him there, but I need to see it's still early. I need to see them closer to the playoffs to honestly be able to tell if they can make a run for that chip. But I mean, all of the injuries to the pitching core right now, though, I can see where Greg is coming from there.
Well, usually I don't start watching baseball until the All-Star game, but now this gives a little more entertainment. So I'm going to catch this game tonight.
You are missing out, sir, because baseball is awesome and everybody should be watching it.
Yeah, well, the first 40, 50 games don't really mean crap to me.
Well, I mean, that's fair. It's just you got to set the tone. Okay. You got to set the tone in a 160 game season.
It's like the first 3 or 4 weeks of football. It's like everyone's counting teams out. Well, it's still early.
Yeah, no. And you can never count these teams out really until actually about when you say you watch it, right? Like the All-Star game is about when you can justify, okay, are you a World Series contender or are you kind of a pretender, or are you just not going to be in the consideration at all?
Well, we'll get into some other news. I know the Bengals are finally sitting down with Trey. We'll get into that, but we'll get into the Stanley Cup, what happened over the weekend ahead of Game 5 tomorrow, right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Oh yeah, Joey Chestnut
Oh,
will be returning to this year's Nathan's famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest.
I knew that wouldn't go last. I knew that, like when they banned him last year for that whole shtick of what was it, the kind of dogs or whatever. That's, you cannot have a hot dog eating contest and not have Joey Chestnut.
And UFC Hall of Famer BJ Penn was arrested in Hawaii for the 3rd time in 6 days.
And literally last week, I was actually going to bring this up last week. I'm sorry, I don't even know if we got to this, but like the story with him, because if I'm not mistaken, this is the one where he believes his family is being taken over by lookalikes that they're trying to take his inheritance.
Yeah, he says his family are imposters.
Yeah. Look, CTE is a real thing. Get checked out if you've ever played football and all that type of stuff, or if you've ever been in a contact sport. I feel for BJ, but this is clearly something that he is dealing with, and hopefully they could figure it out and get him some help, because that's really sad to see.
I know some other NFL news, as you said, CTE. I know Jason Kelsey came out this weekend saying that he's having some CTE issues, and he believes he's going to get some tests done.
Absolutely. Again, look, I think that it's within everybody that has played any type of contact sport. If you played football for a long time, if you're a boxer, if you're an MMA guy, really anything that is semi-physical that includes you getting hit or hitting other people, hockey players specifically, go get yourself checked out. CTE is a real thing. It is very, very scary what's happening to all of our athletes post their careers. And, when you don't have that outlet to get out those frustrations, they come out in other ways. And unfortunately, CTE is a bad cocktail of how it comes out, because it's going to come out against people that you love. It's not something that you want. So go get yourself checked out. Go get all of that looked at, because mental health is above all right now. It needs to be looked at, especially during Men's Mental Health Month. We should note that it is June.
And some other football news over the weekend. 5-star defensive end Jay Raylan McCoy committed to Florida, taking after he had already committed to LSU before recruitment in February. But now he's sold on Florida.
My bug on this, and I know I get this is a dumb bugaboo about this, and I mean USC just got a linebacker over the weekend as well from UCLA. What's the point in committing if you're just going to leave?
Yes.
We had a situation a couple weeks ago of an Oregon commit who convinced the head coach to do a TikTok with him, and then he immediately backs out and goes somewhere else. What?
What's the definition of commitment?
That's what I'm saying. So, like, what are we committing to? Like, you cannot take verbal commitments from athletes anymore. You can't, especially not in the college level. You need a physical signed contract that you are coming to play for this team. This is what I'm saying, especially with the movement of the NIL deal. We had LaTroy in here last week. You can go back, watch our interview with him on our YouTube. It is there. These movements for college athletes are good in terms of getting them more money, but we need to move them more into a professional realm. I'm kind of tired of hearing dang near every major athlete commit to a team and then decommit like a month or two later, say, nah, never mind, I want to go to LSU. Like, no, if you're committing to a team, you are not taking offers or calls or rides to any other college. You're going to that college. You signed a contract to go to that college. And honestly, I think that's what we need to move into. If all of this, especially with the NIL money, is going to be moved that way, I think you need to take this as more of a professional sports light, and all of your commitments need to be in writing 100% from now on. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about this. Feel free to text in 661-842-2000.
They shouldn't use the word commitment.
Yeah, because if you're committing to a team, you're not leaving that team. And it bugs me that I've now heard 36 probably committed athletes from 2026 now moving to a different school.
And it's funny because you brought up LaTroy. He texted me over the weekend. We talked about the financial side of the NIL and what was changed last week, and he sent me the story about where colleges are going to start spreading the money around, and then he sends me the story about LSU where pretty much 75% of the money is going to football.
Yeah,
which we were expecting more of like a 50-60%, but no, it's 75 for football and LSU, or 15 will go to basketball and 5% to women's basketball.
Wow. For those of you who are probably texting in, I know this hasn't been 3 dozen. We know, I'm just exaggerating, but with certain teams like in the SEC, especially like your LSUs and stuff like that, I kind of understand it being that high because the vast majority of your money came from football. Like, to say the SEC made a ton of money on basketball until recently would probably be a disservice. I think football really drives the SEC, especially teams like LSU, Alabama, your Ole Misses, stuff like that. Like, you don't really hear Alabama being a basketball powerhouse until just recently, a couple of years ago. Like, then they started really showing out in basketball, and I think it's because of the NIL money they were able to pull from football. So, like, I kind of get why you would send 70. Still, though, like, that's kind of why I was asking him when he was in here, is like, where is this money going to be allocated? Because how do you justify, paying the football team 75% of the money, the $20.5 million that you're allowed to spend on players, and not 15% to your basketball team, 5% to your women's basketball team, and then the allocated other 5% to everybody else? Like, that's kind of ridiculous, right? Like, I think the baseball team is going to get a little bit of that.
I thought that was the problem, though. It was going all to football.
Well, again, yeah, I don't know if that's all schools, but I don't know. SEC schools, I think they're going to be doing the same thing. But I kind of get why, because most of the money comes from football. Like, we can't sit here and ignore the fact that NCAA football is not the money powerhouse that it is.
Of course. I mean, football, that is the big sport.
Yeah.
But before we go to break, I did see over the weekend that the Cincinnati Bengals have reopened contract talks with Trey Hendrickson.
Finally.
Bringing some optimism, I would say.
I wonder if Shamar Stewart's comments, though, kind of stirred this up. I genuinely do. I wonder if they were even planning on having these conversations with Trey until Stewart came out and said, you can't even get your job done with him. How are you going to pay me?
Well, this is Graziano talking about this.
Future year guarantees, like, give the Bengals front office hives. They can't handle it. They, like, for years, they refused to do it. You did a long-term veteran contract with the Bengals. The only guarantee was the signing bonus. They broke that precedent for Joe Burrow, and then they broke it again for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who have future year guarantees. Those guys are all 26 when they sign their contract. So the Bengals are sitting here saying, well, 26 is a lot different from 30. We don't want to guarantee money in future years when somebody's maybe past his prime years.
That is the bit in the issue. And that was the same thing with Shamar, is that they were trying to reword the guarantees in his rookie deal.
Okay, well, if that's the Bengals' worry, then don't sign anybody over 30 and make your team every rookie on the planet.
Yeah, and just overpay
the rookies. That's what I'm hearing, is you don't want to pay anybody over. He's 30 years old. Past his prime. He's 30 years old.
And your sack leader.
And 2 years running. 30 years old. What do you mean he doesn't have the years past that? Calm down. Like,
I mean, you just lost Pratt, who led your team in tackles.
I don't understand that kind of thinking. I really don't. I get wanting to be young and wanting to, like, focus on more of a different mindset, I guess, within the organization. But to sit there and say that they don't want to pay Trey Hendrickson because they feel like they're paying him past his prime. He's 30. He's got at least 3 or 4 years left before his prime is gone.
And don't tell the guy the year before that, hey, we're going to take care of you after this season.
Right. And then, and they just said it too, is that they did it to Joe Burrow and to Jamar Chase and to T. Higgins. That shouldn't be a good thing. That should not be business practice. We shouldn't be okay with that. You need, like, that's what we were talking about last week, how you're going to just absolutely deter any player from wanting to play for the Bengals organization ever, because all they're going to sit there thinking is, oh yeah, on paper, I am, promised $300 million. But when it comes down to it, my last 3 years of my contract, I'm not getting any of that. They're going to defer all that money, and none of it was guaranteed to me ever.
And then release them before you can get it.
That's ridiculous. That's not how business should be done in the
You think
NFL.
they lock him in?
Probably. I think all of this bad publicity has probably made the organization sit there and think twice and try to figure something else. I honestly don't think it's going to be a long contract, though. I'd say it's a 2-year extension, and maybe get him past his 33, and then they're going to
He's gone.
Find a way to ship him out. Yeah.
If I'm Trey, I'm putting my foot down and just getting paid elsewhere.
I think so too.
I'd make him pay for it.
I think that he wants to be there in Cincinnati because of the people he's playing with and the coaches he's playing for. But genuinely,
well, that I thought was one of the sticky points was when they let go of Lou.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, then this defense is going to fall apart. I didn't think it was going to be them shooting them down.
Again, I didn't expect them to pay T. Higgins that much money.
No.
I'm not going to lie. I did not expect them
neither.
to pay T. Higgins at all. I thought he was going to be the one they were going to let walk, and then they were going to use that money on Trey and the first-round draft pick.
Especially after they tagged him the second time, I was like, okay, this is over.
Well, not to say T. Higgins isn't worth the money, but it just, financially speaking, having 2 max contract wide receivers and a max contract quarterback didn't make a lot of sense. But now it's just, you have way too much on the board in cap salary to even pay any of these guys. But that's why I don't, and with what we just heard as well, if they're really concerned about him being paid past his prime, they're not making this contract any longer than 2 to 3 years. Maybe.
And he's asking for a 4.
Yeah. And he's asking for a long-term commitment.
That's why I say if I'm Trey, I'm either pay me the 4-year deal I want or I'm out.
I'm out. And that's honestly, I think that's where we're going to get to. I think, yes, contract negotiations have begun again. Will they get to a spot? Only time will tell. I don't think the Bengals want to give him a 4-year contract, though. I genuinely do not believe they do.
We'll definitely keep you updated, as that's one of the big stories we've been covering since it started. But we'll take a break. And we'll get into the Stanley Cup, what you missed over the weekend, and preview tomorrow's game right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Did you catch the Stanley Cup over the weekend?
I got to catch a little of it. I was at my dad's house celebrating Father's Day on Saturday, so me and my brother turned it on, but we weren't paying attention to it too much, especially after seeing that Brad Marchand and the Panthers had a 3-0 lead in the third. Again, this wasn't as ugly as it looks, to be honest with you. Brad Marchand had an early goal. I believe Seth had the other one in the early part of this game. And it is just one of those instances again where defense really ran the entire game. Both teams were held to 21 and under shots. I believe the Panthers had 21 and the Oilers had 19. This game ended 5-2. And we saw McDavid's first goal of the series as well, which actually was kind of funny. I was bringing that up to my brother. Connor McDavid, widely known as the best hockey player in the NHL right now, is vastly more of a facilitator from what I understand than he is a goal scorer, but he's still known as one of the best goal scorers in the game right now, which is wildly crazy to think about. But from what we've seen in this series, obviously he hasn't scored at all outside of this one he scored in this game. Do you think he needs to step that up though and become a goal scorer in the next two in order to turn this around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, we get it from Leon Draisaitl enough. I see it. I mean, Perry obviously could score, but we have not seen it at all from McDavid. And I think that's really what has set this set this team apart from the Panthers, is that the Panthers, every one of their stars is scoring. Tkachuk has scored. Marchand has scored multiple times. Seth has scored multiple times. I mean, it seems effortless to the Rat Pack to get the puck into the net, especially when both the goalies for the Oilers are struggling at times.
That's what I was going to say in the goalies issues.
Pickard let 4 in. I'm sorry. One was an empty netter. So he let 4 in this game, and it wasn't as good as we're used to seeing him play. We will most likely see Skinner back for game 6 from what I understand. If I'm the Oilers, I'm a little bit worried because losing this in game 5, now going back to Florida, hopefully like staving off a second Stanley Cup for the Panthers, this may be wrapped up. I genuinely believe this may be wrapped up in the next game unless Connor McDavid can turn on the scoring prowess, because I've been shocked from everything. Because again, casual fans, we cover it as much as we can on the show, and you guys have enjoyed our coverage of it as much as you can. So we will continue to do so. But if I don't see that second level from McDavid, I have to agree with you, Sparky. I think the Oilers might be in trouble.
With Skinner back in, that's what makes me nervous.
Well, again, we've seen Skinner be the bounce back guy too at the same time. So which one are we going to see? Exactly. Are we going to see what the Panthers have made us see in the first couple games, which is like pretty subpar goalie play? Or are we going to see the one that we saw against the Dallas Stars? Because let's not forget, he was benched earlier in the playoffs, came back and turned it on to the next level. So maybe we see that again. Maybe he plays to the ability that we've seen him play, and they can turn it around and win the Stanley for the Oilers. But
and just like what I was saying, in my opinion, anyways, with the Pacers, when I count them out, we make a series. So I mean, I know it's in Edmonton, so we should have a hell of a game tomorrow. This is Emily Kaplan just talking about, how the Oilers come to play when their backs are to the corner.
They're way less emotional than they were last year when they really rode the roller coaster, where they were high with the highs and they were low with the lows, and they're much more even keel. So like a loss like this, I think won't stick with them as much, even though it does, it's tough. It's a really long travel day tomorrow. Then there's a full off day in Florida, and then they get to go. I think back to the quote that he gave famously last year when they go down in the series. I believe it was before game 5. That's when it would make sense. It just goes, it's our job to drag them back to Alberta. And I think it's just got to be that main, that mantra that's going in that room. We're dragging them back to Alberta. We know they don't want to get on that plane. We know that we have home ice advantage. We know that we love playing in front of our fans. Let's give them an opportunity. Let's give ourselves an opportunity to win this in 7. So just that, leave everything out there. Everybody's got to be a dog. That's the mentality for game 6 for the Oilers.
Honestly, I think we're going to get another one of those just classic videos that we saw last year from McDavid in the clubhouse in between one of these periods, saying just turn it on, get to the next level. Game 6 means the most right now if you're an Oiler. So And we are going to Florida, I believe. Actually, it's game 6 will be in Florida, but that's what she's trying to say, though, is that everybody needs to step up. We need to see a completely different gear from this Oiler team that got them here, and then potentially just starve the Rat Pack and take it back to Canada in game 7 and hopefully keep the cup there for the first time since 1993.
We will see. I don't see it happening, sadly.
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched enough hockey outside of these two teams playing each other, really, because God, does it seem like every time I watch hockey, it's the Oilers and the Panthers either playing each other or playing somebody. But it's really difficult for me to say that I'm counting them out. We've seen last year, obviously, this team was able to come back 3-0. It's just going to take another gear. That's all I'm going to have to say, is that we need to see that next gear from Leon Draisaitl, from Connor McDavid specifically, and from Skinner. I think those are going to be the main 3 that you're going to have to lean on to get to game 7.
Well, we will wrap up the show after this break, and we'll preview a little bit of Monday Night Raw. I know Hall of Famer Godfather, which was in a major car accident over the weekend. Luckily, no one was hurt. We'll get into that. And
what's up with these wrestlers and walking away from car accidents like nothing? I mean, obviously your body's prepared for it, being a professional wrestler, but good Lord.
Man, if you saw those pictures of his, I think it was a Dodge Ram.
Well, Foley too. Remember a couple
on
months
April
ago?
Fools, yeah.
He like posted that picture and his car was totaled. I was like, good Lord, man.
But we'll talk about that right after this break. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. Final segment of the day of the early bird special. When it's back here tomorrow, KG will be joining us for his usual wrestling recap of the week. Amongst others, we'll give you a recap of the NBA Finals as Game 6 is tonight. I'm sorry, Game 5 is tonight. I apologize. Which team will pull away in this now best of 3 series, essentially, because did not expect the NBA Finals to make it this far, to be honest with you. I was just hopeful, and everything that I have hoped for has turned out exactly the way I was hoping for it, except for the viewership numbers, down 20%. What's going on, people? Like, are you not fans of basketball? Is that what this is? Are you not true fans of basketball? It's okay to not be a fan of a sport, but I just don't understand it. I really don't. This has been some of the best basketball I've seen in the playoffs in quite some time. So for the viewership numbers to be down 20% is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is insane. 20%. I mean, that's a major.
At least that's what I read.
That's a major drop. I saw over the weekend WWE Hall of Famer, the Godfather, Charles Wright, survived a serious car accident where his truck rolled over 3 times. Both Wright and his passenger walked away completely uninjured from the crash. I saw the Facebook video he had posted, just thanking everybody for the prayers, and yeah, he said I believe it was in West Virginia, and he said that he was making a turn and hydroplaned, and there it was. He lost control of it.
Oh, that's rough. I'm trying to sit here and think if he has ever had a bump that's like worse than a car crash that I can remember. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think I can. He's a little before my time, but I do remember watching The Godfather a little bit. And like I said before the break, like, it is incredible to me that these professional wrestlers, can withstand so much punishment, but to get into these serious car wrecks as somebody who was just in a serious car wreck not too long ago, I'm very surprised. I'm very, very surprised he walked away from that completely unscathed, and thankful that he and the person that he hit both are hurt.
He mentioned that him and his best friend is the Undertaker. Him and Undertaker go way back, and Undertaker had some heart surgery last week. He said it's just been a rough week for the G's. I know not a lot of fans, but I did catch the last 2 minutes of the UFL Championship. Right when I get home, I was unpacking and putting, the laundry in the washer, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a championship game."
Break it down for us, then, Sparky. Who was in the game?
It was the DC Defenders and the Michigan Panthers.
True. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I did remember the DC Defenders were in there because one of their players was just in trouble legally. Actually, if I remember correctly, and he got busted for DUI or something like that, like a week before this game. And actually, I remember them mentioning this now. I don't remember the UFL like actually playing their season, but hey, here we are.
I was talking about, or you were bringing up the ratings. So, I mean, it was a blowout. It was a good game in the first half of what the reporters were saying, but the DC took the championship 158-34. But the report was there was a solid number of people there for the last year's championship. Over 27,000 were in attendance last year. This year, under 15,000. So it was just one of those.
Why can none of these leagues stay afloat, though, you think? Like, why do none of them get the pump, or at least the allure of the NFL? Because it's still football. It's not like they're changing the game anyway. You know what I mean? Like, why do you think that they can't pull in people?
That's a good question. I mean, what I saw the last 2 minutes, it looked like Bakersfield blitz football almost. It just looked like no one was playing defense, and I was falling out, and there was only 2 minutes left in the game.
Do you think it's that, just the discrepancy in ability?
The money put into it?
So you think it's more of the money put into it?
I probably would have watched it just because I would watch sports anyways if it was live. But that I think is the money. I couldn't tell you the quality of the games because that was the only game I've watched.
Right.
So, and I only watched 2 minutes of it.
Right.
And anybody and everybody that I tried to ask about it, they didn't even know what the hell the UFL was.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that, like, obviously we've heard of the UFL, we've heard of the XFL, obviously,
The
and all that type of
CFL.
stuff, CFL, but none of them can ever stay afloat when they're, when they're trying to keep up with the NFL. And you would assume, because it's still football, like none of these guys, most of these guys have played in college, their names, or they've played in the NFL and they just didn't make it as a starter, so they moved over. I've just never understood why we can't get the love behind something like the UFL or the XFL. It is just baffling to me that the only football league that works for America is the NFL. And then we want to go and complain about how the NFL doesn't do a lot of the things we want them to do. If you want things to change, you have to allow competition. If you want to allow competition, you have to support the competition. So that's just what I think. I don't know. I've always just scratched my head on that. I've never understood why America can't get behind leagues like the UFL or the XFL or whatever your favorite and non-NFL football league is. It's just always been a head scratcher.
Well, the Raw tonight.
Yes.
Any previews?
Raw will be live from Green Bay, Wisconsin. You'll get Liv Morgan against Kairi Sane, apparently, and also a promo from She Attacked Nikki Bella last week. Again, further build up for their all-female PLE coming up in Evolution, which should be pretty entertaining. I would assume this is going to lead to some sort of tag team match between Liv and Raquel against the Bella Twins, maybe.
Ooh.
I would think that maybe Nikki gets Brie to come back, or Nikki just recruits one of her fellow wrestlers that's already on the roster to come help her, maybe an up-and-comer that needs some sort of limelight help. Or maybe it's Roxanne Perez and she just says, you know what, I'm going to help you beat her so you don't have to deal with this anymore, whatever the case may be.
I will have to say these Fatal 4-Ways are awesome.
I was just about to bring that up. You'll get the last two Fatal 4-Ways tonight, as well as the men's side. I believe it's Sheamus, Rusev, Jey Uso, and oh Lord, I'm drawing a blank on the fourth person. It doesn't matter. It's probably going to be Jey Uso winning. It's Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed is the other one. And it's most likely Jey Uso is going to win. And then the other side, the women's side, your girl Asuka returns from her injury. Nice. Long time. Stephanie Vaquer, Raquel Rodriguez, and Ivy Nile will also be the 4-way for the women's side.
There's also been a lot of rumors that we might see Goldberg tonight.
It's entirely possible. They really want to build up this Goldberg versus Gunther match for his retirement. I would love to see the match. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's going to take the belt off him or anything. So who cares? He's going to lose. It's Goldberg. I love Goldberg, but he's going to lose. I'm sorry. This has been the Early Bird Special, though, on ESPN Bakersfield. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Sparky, let's get out of here.